Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. This is video 2 for the Shortcuts price list that will go out this Wednesday, May 7th, 9 p.m. Sydney time sharp. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. As I said on the first video, the genre video that I just did, that I hope you watch, because it's got some James Brown and some all sorts of weird. It's got some Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart, but well worth having a look at. As I mentioned, last week's list was incredible. I think it was 28 records and all but one went. So thank you all for supporting my club. It is an absolute pleasure to do this for you. Now, this is the classic rock and pop list, and man, does it live up to the hype. A while back, I sent a note to the folks in Shinjuku with a wish list of records that I hadn't seen in a while and that I'd really enjoy finding on the list so I could, share them with you. Often duplicates of things that I've found that I love. And over the next little while, you're going to see that request came back in spades. And I'm going to start with a record. I think I've had a copy of this maybe once or twice, but certainly not for a long time. I had a look. I can't find the last time I had this. And the thing is that this is undoubtedly, I think, one of the most beautiful rock records in the history of the canon, and it is this. It is the third album from the Velvet Underground, the self-titled album. Look at Lou Reed on the back. The irony of this is that I just booked some tickets to go see John Cale in the recital hall here in Sydney on Thursday, July 10th. And I'm looking forward to it very, very much. But this is the album where really John Cale's influence on the Velvet Underground started to fall away and degrade, and he never, arguably not really part of this record. Lou Reed taking over creative control after the absolute blistering mayhem that is kind of White Light, White Heat. And the result is haunting, intimate, really raw, typical, Velvet Underground collection of songs. When you think about the Velvet Underground, when you've got the 60s drug-induced psychedelia of Velvet Underground and Nico, then you've got the absolute mayhem of the likes of Sister Ray on White Light, White Heat, and you've got this really almost acoustic, kind of self-centered, kind of beautiful record, and then you've got Loaded. What a band! Honestly, it's a run of 4 records that really, I think, is probably unparalleled in terms of influencing so many subgenres in decades to come, and still to this day. I remember getting Dead Letter Office when I was becoming a really deep R.E.M. fan in the 90s off the back of Out of Time, when I was really kind of discovering how much music meant to me. And that really almost drunken cover of Pale Blue Eyes by R.E.M. and Candy Says, both of which are on this record. Side 1, Candy Says, What Goes On, Some Kind of Love, Pale Blue Eyes, and Jesus, I think is one of the great side 1s. It's absolutely wonderful, every single track. I've introduced this record to so many people. I mean, bands like Galaxy 500, Sonic Youth, all those kind of slowcore bands, Low, an absolute debt to the sparse but deep production on this album. I don't know how they did it. It's pretty incredible. I think it's also one of those records that is so self-contained and almost muted that you can enter the record with too high expectation, and I think be a little bit disappointed. But resist that. It is a landmark of modern music, in my view. I could play this thing from start to finish happily every day for the rest of my life, and I think I'd be quite satisfied. And there's not many records that you can say that. Even in a record as kind of intimate and sparse as this, they would still play tricks with you. For example, on the Murder Mystery, where Lou Reed and Sterling Morrison are reading different lyrics at the same time in the left and right channel, and it still works. I don't know. Amazing record, amazing band. I've still never been able to find a really good Japanese copy of Loaded, by the way. That is on my holy grail list. I have heard that the Atlantic 75 release of Loaded is pretty special, so that is on my radar. But this is a wonderful album. And when you see what this record displaced, you're about to be shocked. I've got these two. So part of what the Japanese... these were on my list, of course. This is the Japanese third press of Dark Side of the Moon, EMS 80324. Those of you who watched my video from January will know that I ranked this number 1 in my list of favourite Dark Side of the Moon pressings, and that is because I added a new criteria, which was value for money. And what the folks in Shinjuku have sent are 2 copies of this record without all the accoutrement. It is the record, the sleeve, and the album. And the albums themselves, the vinyl looks really nice. This is going to be your easiest way of getting into this record, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. The soundstage, the depth, the way that it immerses you is truly special. And so, yeah, that Japanese third press is fantastic. Even though it's on that weird kind of brown EMI label, I know everyone says Harvest and Blue Triangles. And when I close my eyes and I study and I listen hard, that's the one the one I reach for. And I've got the 30th, and I've got the Mobile Fidelity, and I've got the UK Quadraphonic, and I've got a UK B2A2, not a B1, but it's too expensive even for me. This is the one. This is the one I reach for. Almost as legendary, as from my perspective anyway, as that EMS 80324 press is the SOPO 100 press of Wish You Were Here. Now, they also sent me 2 of these. One has got slightly better sleeve than the other, so there'll be some difference in the price points. But again, the vinyl itself is excellent, really nice, a really, really cool way to get into what is a lot of people's favourite Pink Floyd album, Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, indeed. But it has more to it than that. This has got also some of the deep cuts that I think make this band so special. Let me just pull out the insert here very quickly. It does a really nice job. There's all sorts of special things. Look in here. Have a Cigar is a really cool song to really give it a volume burst and listen to how that song comes together. Obviously, it leads into Wish You Were Here, which is an all-time classic. But I always think that Have a Cigar is highly, highly underrated. I can't remember the last time I had Wish You Were Here either. It's a while. You know what's weird? What's happening is that these copies are really hard to secure. People are holding on to them, and if they do sell them, they want to sell them for crazy high prices. Thankfully, that's not the case with these. I'm going to have two of those. So good luck finding your way into one of those. I suspect there will be a bit of competition. All right, I have some new as in I haven't had a lot of these for a really long time, and at least one, maybe two, maybe three that I've never had before at all. All of these, though, I'm very, very happy to have. This is 1967, Their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones in this absolutely beautiful gatefold that has to absolutely rival Sgt. Pepper for its deep weirdness. Look at them on the front. Songs and singing by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. This also has one of my favourite Rolling Stones songs, which is She's a Rainbow. But there are a few others that are equally good. Glyn Johns at the helm, doing some wonderful things. And, you can always solve the maze as well. It's like an extra little added bonus. This is the LAX 1011 press, which means that a lot of these came with these kind of smaller size booklets with all sorts of psychedelia and actually quite accurate lyrics, unlike most of the early Rolling Stones presses. So this, their psychedelic record, and I suppose that they went down more of a genre route as opposed to a psychedelic route, and I think for them that ended up being a pretty good thing. But I think how divergent Satanic Majesties is from the rest of their catalogue is what I think makes it so interesting. All right, on to something very different. There is a band who in the 80s created a electronic version of the blues that dominated the charts for a couple of years in the kind of mid to late 80s. But that kind of obfuscates the fact that from in probably the early part of the 1970s, they released 5 albums in a row, which are as good a blues albums as have ever been made, and that is ZZ Top. This is the last of that run. This is Tejas, which means friends in the Caddo language, which kind of honors their Western roots. This is the trifold Japanese first press. It's Only Love, El Diablo, Snappy Khaki, $10 Man, Panam Highway, She's a Heartbreaker, Asleep in the Desert, Billy Gibbons on vocals and guitar, harmonica and fiddle, Dusty Hill on vocals and bass, and Frank Beard, ironically of course, on drums. Tejas, probably a little bit underappreciated. This is also the kind of, I guess, little poster that came with it, which I always quite like, which is that. Yeah, great packaging on this one. If you don't know Tez, give it a listen. A little bit more subtle, not as good as Tres Hombre, but still pretty wonderful. And I suppose one of their more tribute to home records. And they're going to be here again in a bit. The mighty ZZ Top. Talking about mighty ZZ Top, in the genre list that I did a little bit earlier, I had English Rose by Fleetwood Mac, and I made reference to the kind of pop rock juggernaut that they became. Well, how about this? This is very unusual. I have never seen this before. Firstly, it comes with a very strange insert, which is a Japanese fold-out advertisement for speakers. The make of that. but you will. I'm actually going to keep that in the package just because it's so entertaining. This is a promo, Japan only, 12-inch of 4 tracks from kind of the mid-classic period of Fleetwood Mac. So there it is. It has 12-inch versions of Sarah, Think About Me, Angel, and Tusk, if you can believe it. Very strange. I'd never seen it before. You can see there it says not for sale. So I'm wondering how it would have come out. I assume it must have been a promotion of some sort. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some Google Translate on these sections here, because I only opened this a few hours ago. I have a funny suspicion it might explain here what the story of this is all about. But for those of you who love your Fleetwood Mac, love your Japanese Fleetwood Mac, and fancy some 12-inch action of some classic Fleetwood Mac tracks, what about that as a little promo special thing with your speaker advertisements as well? Just as a surprise and delight feature. Shape up your speakers. Oh, how weird. Yeah. Really, really cool. And talking about cool, I've got a few more to go here. Without question, I'm not even going to go there. It's too hard. But a very dear friend passed away recently, and this was her favorite album. This is Rio by Duran. And before she passed away, she gave me her Dutch first press, which will be one of my most treasured possessions. But this is the Japanese first press. It sounds great. The album is wonderful. The bass playing in particular is spectacular. It's just a beautiful record that will always be deeply, deeply poignant to me. Okay, now this is an album that I've never had before, and I had to do a bit of research on it because whilst I'm a massive Neil Young fan, I don't really know that much about Buffalo Springfield. And this is Buffalo Springfield's debut, and this is the Japanese first press of that debut, even though it came out a few years after the Western releases. And so therefore it includes on side 1 the opening track, For What It's Worth, which is a signatory of the late 60s. So this features Sit Down, I Think I Love You, which I think is maybe the greatest Stephen Stills song on this record. It's got some songs that Neil Young wrote but didn't feel comfortable singing, like Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing. But it does also have on side 2 some tracks that Neil Young actually takes the lead vocal on. Burned, Do You Have to Come Out and Set Right. It's a really interesting record. You can see there on the back how the 5 members are described. So you've got Dewey Martin, diplomatic, generous, sincere, heartbeat of the group. Stephen Stills is second lead guitar behind Neil Young, which he would not have liked. Pale blue, Capricorn, fun-loving, youthful. Steve is the leader, but we all are. That's his motto. I'm not sure that became the thing. Richie Fury, who was the rhythm guitarist, who actually sang some of those Neil Young songs. And then how Neil Young is described. Brown and green, leather and suede, midnight, Scorpio, free, deep and dark, Winnipeg, hot and cold, wild sense of humour, and in the final word, hearses. And Bruce Palmer, the bass player, is mysterious. This is more Beatlesy and Birdsy than you might expect, but has a lot of quality and is beloved for all sorts of reasons. Shortcuts royalty, bar none. I can't remember now whether this is the biggest selling record in the history of the club. I think it may have overtaken Otis Redding to do so. It is the Japanese first press of Hotel California by the Eagles. Now, those of you who've got sharp eyesight will notice this big thing here, and that is the Japanese first press single of Hotel California. So not only do you get album plus obi plus poster and all the goodness, you get the single of Hotel California. Now, I can't remember what is on the B-side, so why don't we have a look and see? So there's the little sleevette, and it's got a few things that you can kind of fold out and have a look at. Let's have a look at the B-side. So the A side, Hotel California. The B-side is Pretty Maids all in a row. Now, I wonder, is that on the album? I'm kind of curious now. It must be. Side 1. Yeah, it is. It's on side 2. So there you go. The Ultimate Eagles combo. Obi, single, and album. Alrighty. Now, what have I got? Oh yes, I've got a couple of classics, and then actually I'm going to talk to this one first. The Best of George Harrison on the Black Odeon label. This is before George Harrison went off and formed his own Dark Horse label, but this is the Japanese press, first press with Obi, that has side 1 the Beatles and then side 2 George Harrison. So side 1, Something, If I Needed Someone, Here Comes the Sun, Taxman, For You Blue, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And then side 2, My Sweet Lord, Give Me Love, Bangladesh, Dark Horse, What Is Life. It's like the best of both of his worlds. I don't think anything like this would be possible now. And I really, really like that sleeve. It's got all sorts of good stuff over here too, including, let me show you very briefly, this really cool image of him and some of the best of his solo albums. All sorts of inserts and extras in there. There may even be a poster. I'm going to have to go and check it out a little bit later. The Best of George. And then 2 more Shortcuts royalty. I've got the the hard cardboard gatefold of Cosmos Factory by the mighty Creedence Clearwater Revival. For those of you who aren't aware of what hard cardboard Japanese means, it literally means these records are pretty much indestructible. This is the first press. Of course, it means it's got Ramble Tamble, Run Through the Jungle, Heard It Through the Grapevine, etc. And then we have the beautiful hard cardboard gatefold of Led Zeppelin 2. In this case, it is the P8042A pressing. I can't remember what year this came out. I have a funny feeling it might be 74. I'll have to go and check before Wednesday. There you go. That is it. If you would like to be on the price list to reserve and potentially buy some of those goodies, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. If you like the video, please leave me a comment, acknowledge me, make sure this isn't all for waste, and hope you enjoyed the discussion as always, and I will see you all soon. Bye.